Tonight's topic is shining your light. So shine your light. And that's exactly all we can do in difficult situations, is to shine the light. And what is light? How many of you are afraid of the dark here in this room? Anybody afraid of the dark?
When I was younger, not now.
Oh my God, you're all very good. I was petrified of the dark when I was young, especially after watching the film Exorcist when I was 18. I was absolutely petrified, and I didn't sleep with the light. I always had a little light on until I was 35, until I started yoga actually. I was so frightened of the dark. Now when we talk about shining the light, we also have to, when you have light, what is the opposite? Darkness. In order to shine your light, in order really to shine as who you are, in other words, you have to also recognize where your darkness lies. If you don't recognize where your darkness lies, there's no way you can shine your light. You see, many people come to me and I want to do good, I want to be, I want to be a yoga teacher, or I want to do this, I want to do that. But at the same time, they haven't worked on themselves. They haven't worked on their weaknesses. So they haven't worked on their darkness. And I'm not suggesting that it's important to focus on it. What I'm suggesting is if you understand your weaknesses, then you know, prior to shining your light, you can fix those things. Because if you try and shine a light and you deny what you have in your system, you're always going to come to a block. For example, let me just give you an example. People with low self-esteem. I get so many people coming to me with low self-esteem. I want to get better. Yes, you can get better with the science of yoga. When you know, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, you can get better. But it takes a long time if you do it that way, because you're working with a block to start with. I have low self-esteem. What caused it? Okay, so know your darkness. What caused that low self-esteem in the first place? Oh, for example, somebody might say to me, my mother and my father never praised me as a child. So I continue to feel that I'm never good enough. So what does that person have to do? They have to look at that past. They have to be aware of it. Yes, my parents never praised me. And I look at them and I go, you know what? In those days, they just didn't praise very much. Anybody born in my generation? Isn't it true? Nowadays, they come to a much better and easier generation where, the parents give too much attention, I think, to the kids. The opposite way, way too much. And our generation was, you just get on with it, you do really well and nobody praised you. I was in every single play in my school. I think my parents only attended one. But then it was no big deal. You accept it. However, in this modern age, we expect, you see, where there is expectation, we expect praise, we want people to tell us how good we are. So, because of that expectation, we actually drown ourselves into more darkness. So we can understand where the darkness comes from. It's not from your parents. Your parents were really the tools in your life to make you see that there was an inherent weakness in you. And deep inherent weakness. And that's why you had those parents, to make you rise above yourself, rather than stick in the mud and use them as an excuse for the rest of your life. Because as human beings, we love to use other people as excuses for our deficiencies, or for, or use them as excuses so that we don't have to go beyond what we are comfortable with. Shining your light means going beyond your personal comfort zone. Shining your light is talking about not being afraid of the spiritual you, the physical you, the mental you. Why are you afraid of those things in the first place? Ask yourself, your mental state. What is your mental state like? This is where meditation helps you. when you sit down to meditate, what will come up? What will come up? Your weaknesses, your fears, fears. What if normally, or the things that cause you the most pain will come up. That in itself is your greatest hint. Your greatest fears are your greatest darknesses. Then you have to ask yourself, why am I so fearful of this? And if you notice, if you have any kind of fear, you really cannot progress in life. And not only that, it becomes like a set of dominoes. It becomes, I've noticed when people have one fear, maybe they start with one phobia. Let's say fear of the dark. And then the next day will be fear of falling. Oh, what if I fall in the dark? Then, and as the years go, they build up all these fears. And I've seen people like this, and finally they become agoraphobic. You know what that is? Fear of even leaving the house, because that is their safety zone. So if I go into a house like that, which I did, one woman I met was totally agoraphobic for almost 20 years. 20 years, she would not leave her home. You can imagine the state of her mind. Now, I tried to tell her to shine her light, she wouldn't even know where to go with it. So what we had to do is work with her dark. Where did it start from? You know, because I told her, you don't want to die without seeing the light. She must have been at that time 52. I was younger than her. Remember, this is many years ago. It was my first experience with agoraphobic people. And I said, and she'd been to so many they'd been to her in the house. She never left the house. So I said, how do you do your groceries? People come in and do it. Her family do it for her. She just won't leave the house. So we found out it came from a fear that she had as a child initially. One of her friends left the house, went to the park or something, and died. I don't remember now, meningitis, some disease, something, suddenly died. So, moment you leave your house, dead. Do you see how the mind works? And that built into a story, because she never worked it out, into a story as she grew older and older and older. So going out of the house meant death. So how is she ever going to shine her light? And she had quite a personality, actually, when I met her in her home. She was quite talkative and very excited to have a visitor. I can imagine her world, a TV set and a small apartment. She must be really happy to get any visitor she could have. But we were talking about this. Anyway, to cut the long story short, I worked with her for months. I think it was months. And finally, after months, I said, you know, you live on this earth, and this is how I got through to her. And tomorrow if you died in this room, nobody would really care except your child. One child, I think she had. Who, anyway, got so frightened of you that they've moved to England and want to be near you. I said, at least for one moment in your life, I'll walk down the steps with you. Let us really show who you are, so that you can tell your child that at least for once in your life, after 20 years, you've gone out and you've seen the sun on your face. And it's a beautiful day today. It took me 40 minutes to get her down those steps. And this is after months working with her. And when she came out and the sun was on her face, I never forget her tears. I never forget her tears. So she had to deal with the dark before she could come to the light. When I talk about shining your light, many of us have lots of dreams, right? You all have lots of dreams and visions, and I'm sure, you know, all of you are very intelligent people, of things that you'd like to do in your life. And as you start to approach those things, and you say, oh, one day I'm going to do them, as you start to approach them, there's like a fear, isn't there? Like a painter's block, we call it, actually. I remember when I was studying in the States in university, I had a fantastic art teacher, fantastic. And he was the most yogic person, I think, after my dad and Gurudev that I had met in this life. Wonderful. His name was Dr. Yankar, Hungarian. And, you know, I said to him, I used to be frightened to paint, and I was an art student, because I was so worried about how it would look. Would I do a good painting? Wouldn't I? So I would have artist block. I was very young, I was 18, and he could sense that with me. I was actually his youngest student, so I was like the baby, I was the favorite, you know? So he'd come to me, Nalanie, what's wrong with you today? You are looking at this canvas. I know you love to paint, and you can paint. Why do you stare at it so long? I think I'm scared if I don't do good enough. And he would laugh. He said, you know what you do? What do I do, Dr. Young Guy? He said, you must paint a little every single day. Every single day. And I said, okay, what do I do? But I freeze. He said, you put the canvas out, and you put one line, and you put all your paints out, and then you put just one line, and you sit there. And if nothing happens, you put another color, and you sit there. And if there's nothing happening, you sit there for 2 hours till your hand moves. And if it's the worst painting you have painted in your life, you take it, you put it aside, you get another canvas, and you start again. Because he said, Nalanie, there are thousands and millions of empty canvases waiting for the paint. What was there to fear? If I made one mistake, what did it matter? You know, and later on, of course, I associate this to our yogic teachings. Do not be attached to the fruits of your actions. The fruit of your actions. If you love something, perform it. If you're no good, you'll soon know. But if you don't try, you will never know. And you will die with that dream that you wanted to do this something and you never did it because you never had the courage to. This is why in all scriptural books and spiritual books, they talk about courage. If you don't even have the courage to express your human gifts that you are given, be they small or big, is irrelevant. But if you can't even express these simple human gifts, how on earth are you going to deal with your spiritual gift? How on earth are you going to live spiritually in this life? Because that's even more difficult. Because many people think you're pretty cuckoo when you become more spiritual in your life. They actually love it and they fear it. Isn't that true? They love it and they fear it at the same time. So, and to progress spiritually, is the only way to do that is through our physical personality. To understand that everything, each and everything that has happened to us, and especially the most fearful and frightening moments, have happened only to push us to be our best. When we stay stuck, we insult the spiritual process. We actually, for me, we insult God. When we say stuck, why do I say that? Because this is the instrument. It's like the pencil or the paper. We're just instruments. And if something is given to us as a gift, and we allow the human mind, and the human mind is basically all the time concerned with others' opinion of you. Really, if you really break it down to basic, what will people think? Why should you worry if you act in your best way? Why should you worry about that? Why should you worry if you give the best of yourself, the best you can? Isn't it better to fail than never to try at all? Because by the time you come to your old age, you're not going to have the strength to do it. So many people say, oh, you know, this spiritual stuff, I'll do more of it when I get older. You might be too sick. And of course, if your mind is not sorted by the time you're older, guess what? When you get sick, I have seen this in people, your weaknesses before you get sick. You can pray and pray when you're sick. It's not so easy to get rid of them. you're stuck in those weaknesses. You have to work them out before you get sick. So if a person is bad-tempered, for example, and they get very sick, instead of being gentle and kind, they get angry with the illness, they become bitter, or they become totally lethargic and give up and stay at home all day long like this agoraphobic woman. Because they've never had the courage to go beyond themselves. So while you're young, this is the time to go beyond yourself. If you have those dreams, if you have those visions, and if you feel stuck, you need the courage to go beyond being stuck before you can really shine your light. And what is shining your light? Shining your light for me, is just being comfortable where you are. You're not aware, you're not fearful of being who you are. There's not like this when you're going into different places or when you're going to the unknown. It's an excitement, it's an adventure into the unknown. When you look at life, all life is an unknown as far as I'm concerned. All we know is this moment. But our mind has so many preset conditions that we were brought up with and what we've convinced ourselves of, that we stay so stuck in those preconceived ideas, even about God and spirituality, especially about God and spirituality. We talk about divine energy, we talk about love, we talk about kindness, you know. I never forget the story of one of my students here, a long time ago. You know, a mom and her were having great problems at home. So I said, call your daughter, tell her to come and see me. Let me talk to her.
I'm sorry.
So, no
I'm really
problem.
sorry.
I think I didn't put up my phone as well. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So yeah, so what was I saying?
The mum and the daughter.
Ah yes, the mum and daughter, right? Okay, and I often wondered with all the yoga practices the mum was doing, I always felt there was some kind of bitterness and jealousy in the mother. I mean, I recognized it, but I just thought, passa, you know, this will go, you know, time heals us all. And the daughter came to me and I said, well, you know, why do you have this constant battle with your mom? She's such a wonderful lady. And she looks down at me like this. I said, tell me, you really want to know if you love my mother so much? And I said, so do you. I said, so do you. You really love your mom too. What's bothering you? So she said, you won't get angry with me. I won't get angry with you. She said, my mom sits here, sings, talks, chats with everyone, so sweet. She goes home, and when she's angry, the first thing she does is kick our dog, and hits our dog. And she goes, how can you say my mom is good if she doesn't? Her poor mom had it from me after that, didn't she? So what I'm saying is, in order to shine your light, you really have to live in light. You really have to practice. You really have to practice the yamas and niyamas. You really have to practice things like non-violence. I mean, to the T, to the best you can. Of course, we all make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. You know, when we talk about non-violence, we're not just talking about physical violence. We're talking about a deeper violence. We're talking about a violence to ourselves even, for not listening to our own mental voices, you know? Because they talk to us all the time. There's thoughts in our minds that tell us all the time what we need to fix. And sometimes we will say, oh no, I didn't want to discuss this with my mother or my husband or my wife or my sister because I didn't want to hurt them. Which is very honorable, don't you think? But what's very dishonorable? That you allow yourself to suppress and live with that anger, I think that's very dishonorable. I think they don't deserve that. That is even worse, that deep inner anger. And you say, oh, I don't want to disturb their peace. I never asked you to disturb their peace. I said to talk to them gently about what is disturbing you. Because if there is no communication, that monster that lives in you will only grow. Will only grow. And there will always be that figment, that figment of uncleanness in you, that feeling of a deep bitterness that you can cover up so easily but really is never covered up. Because unless you totally forgive it and let it go, it will stay there. It will stay there. Isn't it? Aren't we strange beings? Aren't we really strange beings? We really have to make peace with all the world. All the saints and sages said that. You know, and I see many people who are former alcoholics or drug addicts, whatever it is, and during their times of alcoholism or the times when they take drugs, they do a lot of things that are not very nice. And the only way they can ever heal themselves is first to recognize their darkness, and then when they start to get into the light, and I really see that, and when I work with these people, they taught me a lot. They're so interesting. They really want to change. They actually progress very quickly. You know why they progress so quickly? It's because they go back, because one of the 12 steps is to go back and ask for forgiveness. So they go back to all the most painful areas in their lives, especially so embarrassed about what they had done, some of them, so embarrassed. Never want to admit they'd done it, they'd have to admit it. And then apologize. And no matter what response they get, they have to accept it. Once they do that, it's really, really very beautiful to watch, because they literally, as human beings, start to shine naturally. So you can't just shine your light like, I'm going to shine by doing these practices. You really have to let go all those grievances before and then the light shines by itself. Then once you let that go and you start to forgive all those little things, what takes over? Sri Patanjali tells us, by the practice of the 8 limbs of yoga, the impurities dwindle away. The impurities in our mind start to leave us. They dwindle away. And there dawns the light of wisdom. There dawns. Where is the light coming from? Yourself. That is the wisdom. That's the inner wisdom. There's nowhere else you can find this wisdom but inside of you. And this is why you have to work on all the dark, work on all the judgments, before the light can shine through. And then when that wisdom comes through, then the fear will also leave you, because now you see your fear as an instrument to teach you to go beyond it. That everything, and this was particularly your human mission, it was your human mission to be truly a spiritual being in a human body, the best you can. And you will see that very, very clearly. And this is where you will feel this, what they call the feeling of grace. It's a feeling of, really, the song, Amazing Grace. I mean, it's a beautiful song. And so many people have written about it, and so many people have talked about it. But it is only through forgiveness and letting go that the grace can come out. And when the grace comes through, then there's no more trying and fighting and struggling with who you are. There is a very gentle acceptance of your weakness. And when you accept your weakness, that's when you heal it. That's 3/4 of your healing. And when you fall and you don't judge yourself and you don't say, oh, I did it again, that's your healing. When you can laugh at your mistakes, that's when you can shine your light. When you can find, oh my God, I did this and I complained all night about it. Do you know what? That's the old me. And laugh about it. I made a mess. I'm sorry, guys. I did it again. Tomorrow I'll try again. Or the same fearful place. You come again. Tomorrow I'll try again. Lighten the load. That's what shining your light is all about. Lighten it. You know, I keep saying over and over again, we take ourselves, the I, physical I, and human personality, too personally. When somebody says something to you, okay, maybe your parents good or your sister did call you dumb and stupid when you're a child. You know, we hold on to that for the rest of our life and use it as an excuse not to move on. How many people have you seen do that? Even bad marriages, they use it as an excuse if the marriage breaks up, etc. They use it as an excuse and blame the other partner for keeping the rest of their life in misery. And that's when we can't shine the light, when we blame, when we use anybody as an excuse. Because there are no excuses, they're all lessons. It's all lessons. Life is all about lessons. And we made a contract before we came down here. We chose the parents we chose to learn certain things. And sometimes the children, many times in this generation, I see the children become the parents' teachers. And parents come to me and say, oh, my child, this. They think they know it all. I said, well, sometimes they do know more than you. Sometimes they do. And you know, maybe you need to look at yourself. Children sometimes, and we are seeing now, lots of young kids, right? Aren't they, you know, already 2 or 3 months, born 2 or 3 days, they're bright. You know, in the olden days, they say 7 days before you really see that they are bright and the baby's fully awake. I don't know, do you remember that time? Most of you are too young. Brenda, you remember that time. Nowadays, they're born and they're awake. They're here, they're right here. And there are a lot of old souls being born today precisely because our world is going through an evolution. It's an evolution, and this is the best time for us as human beings to really shine our light. As human beings who are not afraid, who walk forward with confidence, with courage, whatever our job. It doesn't matter how big or how small, but to not fear in those little jobs. And because the biggest job of all is overcoming your own mind. As Paramahansa Yogananda would say, the greatest victory you will ever win is the victory over your own mind. Don't worry about anybody else. That's where it all starts, your own mind. And when you can make friends with your darkness by not drowning in it, but watching it and shining a light on it, then naturally you will grow to be who you were born to be. The grace will just come and work on you. Because what is blocking it? You know, Sri Patanjali also says in the Science of Yoga, by the practice of pranayama, prana is our energy, soul energy. The Chinese call it qi. We call it connection with consciousness, akasha in Sanskrit. So prana is that which is in our body. Ayama means control of. Prana can be more prana can be brought into your body through a physical practice, literally called breathing exercises. And here he says, by the practice of pranayama, the veil over the inner light will be destroyed. How does this work? Simply, our minds are always so busy. Even if we see the dark and the light and we sometimes it's just too much stuff in there. Just too many thoughts, too many things going on. Just by the practice of taking a deep breath, which I hope you will do with me now. Let's inhale. exhale fully and completely. And as you exhale, bring the abdomen all the way in. And now, inhale. And again, exhale, bringing the abdomen, even if you have to force it initially, all the way in. And now, take a deep breath and feel up your body. Continue breathing a few more breaths. Bless you.
It's okay, Lord.
So you can open your eyes. What that does, it stops the mind just for that little while. For a little while, that outer consciousness, which is prana as well, enters the inner consciousness, which is prana as well. So at one point, when the breath totally stops, and this is a practice that if you do for a long time, you will really understand the depth of it. And this is why we hope to do some pranayama workshops in the future, so that you can really understand the depth of the practice of pranayama. At one point, there's just no mind. And when you learn to, there's a natural retention of the breath. The breath just stops. And there's just a stillness. It is at that time that it just feels so light. You feel so light. You feel so light that when you finish with it, you feel so light. You don't know what's overcome you, but you feel the presence of an energy far greater than you. You feel this presence. And that's why the practice of pranayama, by the practice of pranayama, the veil over the inner light is destroyed. And this is why a lot of yogis talk about practicing pranayama, but you have to practice it slowly and in a controlled way, because as our master says, if you practice too quickly, then this energy, you will not be able to understand it. It's just too much. So you have to go slowly, and you build up over the years. Once you realize that this all is just a costume, then shining your inner light is very easy, because now that you know your time is so limited on this earth and you just have this costume for a limited amount of time, then you realize that human mission is so powerful and so important that all your little personal, I can't, is too difficult, all those fuss-making things will have no more place in your mind. It just will disappear by themselves. And when you hear yourself saying, I can't, you almost have to stop yourself. You know, sometimes I say, and then I go, never use those words. You can. You can. And then, because it's you see, we are so controlled by our language. We are so controlled by our language. And when sometimes, this is why we do positive affirmations, right? Because first we work on our language. Haven't you seen in homes where people swear a lot and speak very badly? You've watched enough movies, I'm sure. But there's a lot of swearing in the house, and they're shouting at one another. Isn't it hell in those homes? And I've worked with many people where there's a lot of shouting in the home, But when one person stops swearing and shouting, it changes the whole energy of the home. This is why Sri Patanjali also tells us our speech is really very important. The way you talk to people, the way you address the world, the way, especially, the way you express yourself to the people you love most. This is where we always take the people we love the most for granted. Watch this. And they're the people who will be with you at the last minute. And yet those are the people we take for granted the most. And when we're frustrated, we will scream at them. And we'll say, oh, I wish I could do without you. Ask those people who have lost those people the truth. Why did I say those words? Why did I speak those words? Why did I think those thoughts? We're here, all of us. And of course, because we all come from the one, we all know that, right? We all come from the same source, right? Unless we act like we come from the same source, it's very difficult to really shine who you are. And when you understand you come from the same source, you become free of your personal desires. Now you work as a team. You work together as a family unit or a team unit. And this is where you see great success in the world. United we stand. Divided we fall. A family that prays together stays together. All these old things are being lost in our homes. People are not doing this anymore. Everybody's off to their own rooms, and and we're losing that connection. And kids are losing that connection, and families are losing that connection. This is why there's so much suicide today. People feel so alienated and so separated and so alone. So you start talking to them about God and spirituality, they don't even understand what you're talking about when they don't even have one person to love in their lives. So the only way they can learn anything about love and shining the light is through love itself, or through your own expression of love towards them yourself. Otherwise there is no other way they can learn, because there are no examples. All the kids today, the way they swear, and if I talk to most of them, and you know what they tell me, you don't know how my parents swear at home to each other. You don't know how they speak to each other. And then the parents come and tell me, I don't understand why my child swears at me. Do you swear at them? I never swear at them. Do you swear at your wife or your husband? Yes, I do. Well, you think they're deaf? Gurudev used to tell us all the time, if you remember. So how can you tell your children not to smoke if you're smoking? How can you tell your children not to shout if you're shouting? So a lot of shining our light comes through our verbal actions to the world. What we say, how we conduct ourselves. If we're kind of like, really spiritual, just complaining all the time. What light is that? Do you know? How many people do you know that are so serious in spiritual practices and constantly telling you that you're doomed to hell because you're not serious enough? I don't call that shining the light. I don't understand that. I run away. The reason why I fell in love with our lovely master was because he was always making jokes and he was so funny. And he was so serious sometimes also. He was so serious when he was meant to be serious. But he was also very funny. And he was always shining. His whole aspect was light. Did he try? It was his aspect. It was as it was. He was as it was. There was no struggle. There was no fight. He was light. Why? Because he lived the deepest truths. And that's the only way we can really shine our light, when we live these deepest truths in our own minds, in our own souls. And then all the physical gifts come into being. They start to become alive. Then you get that canvas and you paint, and if it's ugly, okay, you put it aside. It doesn't really matter what people say. But I expressed myself. I did it. I did it. In this lifetime, I did it. I kind of really admire Shanti, this desire for singing. She's done it, hasn't she? She's done it. I think that's amazing. And she really couldn't even hold one note in the old days. And look at her today. I mean, she really had this desire. She practiced for a long time without a break and with all her heart, and she achieved it. She achieved where she doesn't want to be a famous singer, although now every Friday they seem to be inviting her to Nalanie to sing. And I'm not exaggerating. So maybe we should do one of your new songs, right? Do you know what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter, she just followed her dream. And how could she do that, even though, you know, we say, oh, Shanti, you're not really that good, including me. And, and because she flowed in her love for the divine, and she's shown her light in her love for her divine, and it worked, it just worked. All the impurities dwindled away, and there dawned the light of wisdom leading her and pushing her forward, because, as the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. When she was seeking the fame, nothing. When she was saying, when she had her first ego hit with her singing, it was so bad. She showed it in UK in front of a lot of our students there, and everybody laughed. And I thought, Shanti, why do you do this to yourself? So bad, isn't it true? That was the day the ego. She said, Nalanie, this is horrible. I'm not going to do this again. And that's when something else took over. She still loved singing. She took voice lessons. And then she said, but I'll sing for myself now. I don't ever want to be famous again, because I made a fool of myself. And that's when it took over. You see, the personal I desire thing to, I just love this because I love singing. I just love singing. Now I'm going to learn the art of singing. And when she no longer desired that fame and fortune and desired to be famous, she did become famous in her own way. She won the song festival, didn't she? So you know, when you watch this in life, it really shows. Because then her focus, after that huge ego disaster, we call it ego sickness, when she became, her focus changed to dedication, devotion to the divine. So the focus changed. And she really did seek God, because now she was so embarrassed about that part. You know that when you do something yucky and you get that feeling, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and then like, oh God, forgive me, I don't know if you get that, and you get a humbling feeling, you know, eeks, why did I do that? Any of you know that feeling? Yeah? And then you just, oh, I just don't want to do this again, and you become really humble. And when you really become humble, that's when the light comes in. You know, because now the arrogance is gone. Where there is arrogance and huge egos, the light cannot shine. Yes, it can shine, but it will shine very temporarily. Because nowadays people are so clever, they can see straight through the ego. Haven't you noticed? We're coming to an age of intelligence where people are questioning a lot. I think it's really wonderful. They're questioning everything. They're rocking the roots of social and how we should be. We're questioning religion, we're questioning politics, we're actually questioning the way our world is run. And now more and more people are actually making a difference. I don't know if any of you read the website Truth About Cancer, any of you? Well, Taimonja, what he has done in the field of cancer, bringing all the doctors to the forefront. You know, many doctors have been killed, over 60 in America, because they have proclaimed that through diet and through vitamins and through other regimes you can heal cancer. Chemotherapy actually promotes, destroys your immune system and works in very, very few cases, right? So I don't know if you read about this. It's really I've been following it for many years now, because I know many people with cancer. And even Johns Hopkins University itself has come up with healing cancer through diet. Healing cancer through diet. So he's had this this ability to speak out. Speak out and save many, many people. And not only many doctors now. So we're coming to an age where a lot of people are willing to risk their lives to speak out for the betterment of mankind and humankind. And this is where you really need to shine your light in the world today, to be able to speak out without fear, at the right place, at the right time, with the right purpose in mind to help the world become a better place. Well, where best can each of us individually speak out? Maybe we're not a Thai Bollinger who can make such a big difference in the world, or Wayne Dyer. But in our own small way, in our own small world, we start at home with our family. Notice in your small unit, where do you have angers, where do you have issues? Start dealing with them there and first and foremost. Cleanse that out. Cleanse that out. And if you can't clean it out, at least ask for forgiveness and walk away. Because sometimes even if you ask for forgiveness, people don't want to give you forgiveness. And that's their problem. You've asked, you've let it go, and then you let it go. You let it go. No expectation. And in that, when you let these things go, then you can really become yourself now. You can really become the best you can. There's nothing stopping you to do the higher mission in life. So, any questions on this? Anything you'd like to ask? I wish Christiana was here. She said she has a page full of questions to ask me, and she couldn't stay tonight, unfortunately. So, anything you'd like to ask or share, any experiences that you would like to share? When you're working in the energy of the divine, you feel it, you know it. There's a strength in you. How many of you felt that? You know, the days when you get up, yeah. Brenda, I remember you actually mentioned it to me the other day. Would you like to tell them what you told me?
No, it takes 40 minutes.
Okay, so we're going to arrange 40 minutes for you.
That's how long it took to give the talk, remember?
Yes, yes. I wasn't here, I was away for your
You were
talk.
away now.
But I heard you talk in my office. Yeah. Yeah, because when she was going through the worst part of her life, the really bad bit.
Which was the best bit.
Which was, and you saw it as the best bit. She shone. She literally shone. She was, we thought she might be dying of cancer, right? What else was it? Oh, your marriage was down the drain. Oh my God, everything at one time. Similar to your case, Les. Cancer and family nearly down the drain. Interesting. Huh? And that's when you both shone your brightest lights. How interesting is that?
It's a matter of perception, how you see things.
Yeah.
I saw it as new beginnings, as an alternative way of thinking.
Yeah, and you succeeded. And how's defeated the cancer?
Absolutely, I'm clean today.
Fantastic. That's great. Les, clean today too, right? So, and they both had to climb this huge mountain, and I watched them, instead of drowning, just with their faith. Really, it was faith and trust in the divine. It was totally trust in the divine and trust in the human mission. This has come to me for a reason. I remember when Les told me he had cancer, and he goes, you know, he said, I just prayed to God and said, I'm willing to accept anything you want. I trust you implicitly. And that's when the healing happened. It's interesting, she said the same. It wasn't the fear that set in, it was the light, the trust, and that inner grace that took over. And you can see the power of it. You can see the power of grace. But when you don't allow yourself to dwell in the fear or sink into the fear, it's not that they both weren't fearful. I mean, it's not really very pleasant to be told you might die when you're so young. But they transcended it. They transcended it. And how did they do it? With all the years of practicing with their mind, all the years prior working on themselves. I mean, Brenda's been doing positive thinking for a long time, and looking at the world differently from a spiritual point of view. And so had Les. So when you look at things from a spiritual point of view, everything becomes bright, everything becomes light. Even the worst, especially the worst moments in your life. And that's what shining your light is really about. Because that's when you really need to shine it. Not when everything is going well. That's the easy bit. It's when everything is going really bad. And for example, we got Lakshmi here today. I mean, poor girl, every year, every time it rains, her house floods. And you know, I wrote to her. She sends me a text Monday morning. Nalanie, don't worry. The center is fine. Everything is dry. Not a word about her house. Shanti sends me, text from Lakshmi. Center is fine. Everything is dry. And then she sends me another message from her, which she didn't write on my message. Don't want to bother me.
Because I asked her for, that's why I
Oh,
asked
did
her, how's
you?
your house?
Oh, how's your house? And then she writes, and then she sends me a message, my house is leaking, but you know, I'm so lucky. It's only a little thing compared to so many people. So I wrote back to her. And you know, that lightness, you know when somebody's really light, and you know when they're pretending. That general light, I could hear the laughter in the message. Oh no, not again. But you know, what can you do? Thank you. So, and you know, when you see, and with the practice, and remember the time when Michelle's car broke down, do you remember? I think that story, I forgot your story.
It broke down and everybody was saying, oh, you're going to need this, you're going to need that, you know, new engine, new whatever. And I just thought, well, it'll be what it'll be, I'm not going to let it bother me. And I took it to the garage and they looked at it and it was something very simple and straightforward, and it got fixed straight away with no problem.
See, when you shine your light, your attitude, that is shining your attitude, but then really, she really wasn't bothered. She was telling us in the past she would have been bothered. I remember when Mitra, you know, when he shone his light, and I'll tell you one time when he really shone his light, we were going to India, Ramana Maharishi's cave. Yeah, do you remember? And I'm an asthmatic. I really can't do uphill. I really find it very hard. And this was really uphill. And I thought, all the students are going, I've got to go. And he could see me struggling. So I got to be the example. And he took my hand, literally, I'll never forget it. And it's okay, Nalanie, I'm with you. And I literally floated up that mountain. Do you remember? I never forget it that day. He literally used, and I don't know how, because all he did was hold my hand like that. And I literally felt it so easy to go up and breathe all the way up. It's amazing how people, when they do something in love, you know, that energy comes through and it pushes you forward. And that's how we can help heal each other, through love, you know. And this is why Sangha is so important. We hold each other's hands along the way, the support system. We need the support system because it's very cold out there in that world sometimes. And people can be so negative when you're trying to be so positive. That's very draining. And so, of course, you get day after day drained by negativity and gossip and, you're up in the clouds. And what happens is that eventually your energy gets sucked in. So this is why it's really important to be around like-minded people. Your friends, choose the right friends. Choose people who inspire you or you're inspired by. Be around higher energy, at least in your home. Fill your home with higher energy practices. Put mantras on, happy songs on, satsangs on. You know, that's what I do with my home. And you charge the energy of your home. So anybody walking in immediately feels there's an energy in there. There's a peace. Why do I feel peace? Not me, it's my music. It's all these things that we are given to help ourselves. So, you know, and try in your home not to, my home, nobody's allowed to swear or get angry. That's the rule, right? So, so everybody knows that. Once you lay certain rules down, and when they do, you just stand up and go, this is the rule of my home. Don't like it, go. Then people learn to respect those rules. We're too free and easy with our rules today in the most important things. The most important things. love, kindness, truthfulness, joy, laughter. We don't seem to instill those rules. We just instill rules that fix this and don't do this and da da da. We don't give spirit time to our family or our friends. We don't sit and can we just sit and be and just talk about nice things at dinner tonight? We had a Thanksgiving dinner at home a few weeks ago, and my granddaughter had 4 friends who came from the States, international school, right? So they came from the States, and they were also depressed because Thanksgiving for them was a big thing. So she called me, and I said, Tara, don't worry, tell them we'll do Thanksgiving dinner on a Friday at home, and they can all come. Are you sure, Gran, they can come? Of course they can come. Let them feel that they're not alone. Let them all come home for dinner. So we came home for dinner. They all came. We all sat on the long table like Christmas. It's Christmas for them, right? So each one, I said, had to go around the table and say what they were thankful for. And my grandkids, Gran, so embarrassing. You know, because they're worried about what their friends are going to think about. That's normal, right? When you're young, oh, my gran, she just talks about everything so openly. They love it, but they're not sure about their friends, so they feel a little uncomfortable. They go, no, Tara, don't worry, your friends know me already. They'll be fine. And so anyway, they all said what they wanted, and they were all so happy. So later, my youngest granddaughter said, Gran, I think you embarrassed them. I said, no problem, I'll ask them. So I went up to them and I said, did I embarrass you guys? I said, no, we actually loved it that you were interested in our lives. We actually loved it. That was their answer. And I said, you worry too much about what people think. So depth, we need to bring depth and gratitude and love into our homes, and then the light shines. Just make your home your haven. Make your home your haven. Make it your ashram. Make it a place of love. If you do that, then you will naturally shine. And in your home, expect certain rules. No shouting, no screaming. And if you have an argument, you can go to one room in a corner and scream. Choose one room that you can lock up and scream in. Leave all the bad energy there. Because sometimes we need to express, right? We need to express. And getting angry once in a while is important if it's over something that is really important, and you need to get angry to show that it is important, but only because it serves. Because it serves. Sometimes when you tell people nicely all the time, they don't hear also. Sometimes you have to have a loud voice, and then they'll listen. Don't talk like this in my home. I have to do that sometimes. So you have to instill, in order to instill those rules, you have to be so confident in yourself that you're not doing it for yourself, but for the betterment of everybody else. Always for the highest good. And that's the divine, because everybody's divine. Who isn't? What isn't? The other day we had and I'll finish with this story. The other day we had our Raj Yoga gathering on Saturday in my home for the Raj Yoga teachers. And we were talking about in India how one of the students were talking about how they separate men and women, right, in temples, how they separate men and women. And then somebody else was saying that she knew a friend who, one of her Ayurvedic teachers said she really didn't like yoga. And she said to her Ayurvedic teacher, why don't you like yoga? She said, because now, in yoga, everybody's talking about how they have to stretch and how they have to, isn't that what Barbara said? Yeah. Do all these postures, and some of the postures they put themselves into are so dangerous that they come back and they have no idea about yoga and they become so rigid. Now, nowadays you get that too, yoga is the only way, and it's all kind of gone a bit crazy, yeah? So, what was the point I was trying to, yeah. So anyway, we had this huge discussion and about how yoga was becoming so rigid and how men and women were separated. And Lee said one simple thing to everyone. He said, and we talked about religions. He just said, Nalanie, I just don't understand all of this discussion. He says, everybody's saying it's one consciousness. accept all, love all. Is that what you said? One consciousness? And then he said, and yet the second breath they're speaking, they said, women separated, men separated. They just blew what they said, didn't they? Isn't it true? And we had that experience once, right? We had a monk many, many years ago who came and said, God is everywhere, God is one. And then suddenly the words came out, but Hindus know it better than everybody else. Honestly, he said that. And of course, all the Catholic students that I had and the Christian students that I had came to me. You may remember this. Nalanie, what is this? You bring this teacher, and he's saying the Hindus know it all. They felt a little bit of hurt, you know. So what do? I was like really, oh my God. So I called up my master, Sri Swami Satchidananda, and I said, Gurudev, I have this real dilemma. I love this teacher. He's a wonderful teacher, such a great person. But this happened yesterday, and I don't know what to do with it. And he said to me, sometimes the student becomes the teacher. Bang! Do you know what he was telling me? He was telling me I was a coward. I should be addressing the teacher. Uh-oh. And now this is somebody who was so super intelligent, so super knowledgeable. There I was, just a beginner at yoga. But I had to follow my truth. I had to follow my truth. I couldn't be in his company. I was so disturbed by this because all my students were disturbed. So I went up to him and I said, Swamiji, I have to talk to you, and I'm really sorry if I offend you. But I don't understand how you can say we're all one and then insult Christianity, insult Islam, insult this, and I can't understand, say they're not good enough. I said, I'm so confused. And you know, he was so wonderful. And he said, did I really say that? I said, yeah, and you really hurt a lot of my students. And you really hurt them. And it hurt me that you hurt them. And he said, I'm so sorry, Nalanie. Excuse me, my cold. I'm so sorry, Nalanie, he said. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I didn't mean to put it that way. And I thought that was so great of him. Wait, the next night he gave the talk and he didn't say that anymore. And he said, we all together. And then he asked me after the talk, are you happy with me now? And sometimes I guess we get lost with our spirituality. We get lost and maybe we don't even mean it. We get stuck by saying certain words that you say for so long that you don't even think anymore what you're saying. So I realize even as a teacher, we constantly have to be watching ourselves constantly. We have to be so vigilant with ourselves first and foremost. And there's so many of you here are yoga teachers and maybe leaders in your own field of work, in business, wherever, or in your home even. We constantly have to be vigilant. If we are not, soon the ego creeps in, and we don't even recognize it's creeping in. And with that, I will end my talk today.